kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
The round of 12 is done and dusted. It is now time to go to Sin City for the first race in the round of 8. It will come here from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the Moonshiners Racing League. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. Alongside me tonight, my broadcast partner, David Modespa. David, we saw a great race around the Roval last week. Final 10 laps, it seemed like whoever was in front just didn't have enough to get the race win. Here tonight, it's going to be a long race at Las Vegas.
Certainly a track that requires a little bit of skill. It is still a high-speed racetrack, but getting out front to that clean air, drivers are going to have to work and stay in that clean air, as it's really going to have a big effect on these race cars come the end of the race.
Yep, it absolutely is. We're going to have a couple of short stages here at the beginning of this race, and then the one long stage at the end. Stage breaks are going to be at the end of lap 40 and 90, or 45 and lap 90. So it's going to be a nice 100-lap run to the finish here. That could play havoc with some of these guys' pit strategies in the first two stages.
Guys certainly going to have to take some notes and figure things out, but excited to see what they can do. Looks like they're running pretty well in practice so far, so excited to see how things shake out for qualifying and see where this grid lies.
And absolutely. And while we wait to see where the grid lies, let's show you where the point standings lie. And we were right with our math last week that it was Barry Sanders who was the last car to make it in to the round of 8. So there you see the point standings as they sit right now. Kenny Coppola, Kyle Holden, Shane Davis, Justin Belmonte, Wayne Bowen, Chris Davis, Barry Sanders, and Randy Mullins are the 8 that are going to be trying to get through this round. And those are the only 8 that can lock themselves into Homestead in 3 weeks' time.
And wouldn't it feel great to lock yourself into that Final Four, not have to worry about things coming up at tracks like Martinsville where you're going to have that cut line race. So I'm sure drivers in our playoffs are certainly going to have that in the back of their mind.
And absolutely, as we look through the remainder of the standings here tonight, and we have a pretty decent sized field here in this race. 31 drivers set to take on the 200 laps here at Las Vegas. That is the one nice thing about a league that goes along with the actual NASCAR Cup Series schedule. It may be a very, very long season, but you have plenty of time to practice during the week, with the official series being there the week before.
Certainly some time to get some laps in and figure the track out, see what works, see what doesn't. But I think one of the things that is super important is understanding what your fuel mileage is going to look like. Sure, a lot of these leagues cut back like 65, 70% fuel fills depending on where you're at. But understanding how many miles or how many laps you can really get out of that tank is a big advantage when it comes down to racing some of these tracks, especially here at Las Vegas, knowing exactly how far you can push it, especially when it comes to that third stage, running that last 110 lap stint.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I saw a fantastic fuel mileage race last night, as you saw the team point standings up there on the screen just a moment ago. We're a couple of seconds away, about 20 seconds or so away from jumping into the qualifying session. And this is another one of those racetracks where the outside line and the inside line, there's not a lot of difference as far as pace goes. Saw a lot of races over the official week, and it really seemed like both lines were just as good as one another as it came down to the end of the race.
Both lines do seem to really work out well here at Vegas. I am interested. It has been a little while since I got a chance to race here at Las Vegas, if the outside line still eats into the tires a little bit more than that inside line. So something I'd be interested to keep an eye on. We'll see how these drivers do as we're now looking at qualifying.
Yep, it is. And one thing that we did notice, and I'm sure these drivers have picked up on it as well, especially over the official week, whatever setup they had for the official week, it tended to wear out the left side tires more so than it did the right. So that means these guys are going to be getting looser and looser as this race progresses and as the run progresses.
Certainly keeping the eye on the tires. Looks like a nice sunny day here in the iRacing service at this track here at Las Vegas. So keeping an eye on those tire temperatures and understanding how that's going to affect the handling of your car as well.
Certainly, as we see Tim Wortman on track right now in the number 83 Ford Mustang, as we get set for first official laps of qualifying coming through, and Wortman right up against that outside wall here for qualifying. Be interesting to see if he takes more of a super speedway approach to this qualifying, being up on the wall for the first lap and then down at the bottom for the second lap. As Wortman comes through, that car does not look like it has a twitch in it. A very firm car there in that 83.
Looks like it's got some very stable handling, and as you mentioned, running that high line, building up that speed here at this high-speed track on that first out lap, and then, of course, getting down to that, what I would call the preferred groove here at Vegas, diving low through the turns and really working the car to get as much speed out of it as you can going up and down the banking.
Wortman fastest of all on the first lap of qualifying. We'll see what he can do here. And for Tim Wortman Jr., he will better his time. He's 0.2 of a second clear of what was the third place car, Kenny Coppola. Now the number 2 driver on the grid, at least for the moment, is Chris Davis. Missed him last week in the number 29. As Davis off of 4, right now 7th quickest. P2 just a little bit quicker than Kenny Coppola, so a very good run for him.
Playoff drivers showing their speed and qualifying well up front as it stands right now. Davis, Coppola, Mullins currently occupying 2, 3, and 4 positions. So be interested to see how these other drivers a little bit lower in the standings at the moment play out. I don't believe they've made their second lap quite yet. So there we see Bowen hop up to that 4th place spot. So I think all these playoff drivers are really going to be pretty competitive. Looks like they're running around a 10th off of each other at the moment, so it should make for some great playoff racing here tonight at Vegas.
See the drivers in gold on the timing and scoring pylon. Those are the drivers that are in the round of 8. This week, next week, and the week after, you will see drivers' names in green. Those are the drivers that are locked in to the championship race. Kyle Holden in the number 59. Coming around to complete his first lap. Again, we've got quite a number of drivers here, 31, as Holden, right now, not the last playoff driver to make a run, but he is one of the last. 18th quickest on the timing and scoring sheet right now. Looks very good down on that bottom, though. Does Holden, as he will jump up to 6, but Paul Gallimore jumps up to P1 in that number 11 with a 29:31. Very good time for him.
Certainly looking like some opportunity for a little bit of upset of these playoff drivers tonight, as we currently have 2 drivers that are faster than our fastest playoff contenders. So something we'll have to keep an eye on, but we know those playoff drivers, regardless of win or not, they're going to want to find their way to the front and get in front of their other playoff competitors, try to earn as many points as they can, especially throughout the stages of this race. And then, of course, come the finish, they're going to want to try to find their way onto that podium.
Only playoff driver that has not qualified yet is the number 79 of Shane Davis. He has gone out on track and is beginning his warm-up lap as Jamison Middlemiss has a big wiggle coming out of turn 2. Middlemiss was the slowest of the drivers to qualify on his first lap. We'll see what that number 16 can do here as we are now halfway through this qualifying session. And Middlemiss jumps up to 18th position, but is immediately bumped down to 19th as Nick King goes into 17th. As here is Shane Davis, the last of the playoff drivers. See, 6 of the 8 have qualified inside the top 10. The only one that has not qualified inside the top 10 is the winner of the last 2 races, Justin Belmonte, in the number 6.
Davis, of course, showing off some speed on the high line right now. Looked like through turns 1 and 2, it would have been hard to fit a sheet of paper between that car and the wall, and looks like he is laying some great times. Looks like he'll drop down to the low line here and make his way back around.
23rd on his first lap at a 30:07. We'll see what he could do. And again, there's not a lot of drama in that car. It looks very, very stable. Through 3 and 4 here, off of turn 4. Nice and low off the corner, cutting some time down. And Shane Davis will go P3, fastest of the playoff drivers. Very good time there. So it'll be an all Davis second row, as this is Brandon Bakey here in the one that has stopped prior to the start-finish line at the end of his first lap.
Just taking a look and getting a feel for things. You know, gotta visualize the track in front of you, Frank. So,
you gotta soak it in, man.
Interesting strategy. Probably just taking some time, making sure all the settings and stuff are right before the race here. But nothing wrong with pulling down onto the apron and making sure that all your settings are correct before you climb out of that car and get that last opportunity before grid, before you go back to the race.
Yeah, he is, he's already taken the green flag on this run, so he is taking his time and getting the white flag for his qualifying attempt. Nicholas Atwood, Derek Jacobs, Matt Metler, Jeff Carson, John Binder, and Ryan Huff are the only other drivers that have not yet qualified. One driver still out on track right now is the number 31 of David Doothwaite, as he is taking a couple of extra practice laps. We saw that last week at the Charlotte Roval, and still, even a track like this, every circulation you get under your belt can only help you.
Finding that line, finding where you're comfortable. Again, such a large field of 31 drivers. Really only one of those drivers gets an opportunity to run in clean air tonight. So getting what that car feels like if you do make it to the front of the field and getting those valuable practice laps in now can certainly help you later on if you do find your way up to the front.
Minute 40 to go here in this qualifying session, so we are getting closer and closer to the point where if you do not set a qualifying time now, or at least start your run, you're not going to get one in, as it looks as though Paul Gallimore is going to take this pole, what I believe would be his first pole award of the year. Yes, there's my taskbar on the bottom. I was hoping that would not have happened, but hey, you know.
Got to run it somehow, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, it will be his first pole of his second pole of the season. He won the pole back at Kansas, which is, oddly enough, very, very similar to this racetrack.
Racetrack with a very similar style and, of course, a very similar speed. So be interested to see if that equates to finishing positions tonight. Of course, Gallimore running quite well in qualifying. We'll see if it pays off for him a little later on.
Derek Jacobs has taken to pit road in the number 27, but with 20 seconds left, there is no way he will get a time in. So Gallimore will collect his second pole of the season. And as you mentioned, David, two non-playoff drivers will make up the front row here tonight.
Certainly those non-playoff drivers, giving our playoff drivers a little taste of that dirty air early on, should make for some interesting racing here at the start of the race. And of course, we'll get an opportunity to see how those non-playoff drivers up front react to the playoff drivers trying to get around them here at the beginning of the race.
Absolutely. And let's take a look at that starting grid here for tonight's race. Paul Gallimore with a time of 29.309 will start on the front row. Tim Wortman Jr. will make up the outside, of that front row. Shane Davis and Chris Davis, and all Davis second row. It'll also be the first row of playoff drivers. Kenny Coppola and Wayne Bowen will make up row number 3. Kyle Holden and Randy Mullins in row 4, Chris Spear and Barry Sanders in row number 5. Row 6 will see Chad Sullivan and Ed Boyles. Aaron Matthews and Warren Young will make up row number 7. Caden Norfree and Stephen Gibson in row 8. Row 9 will see Paul Whitley and Nick King. Row 10 will go to Darren Mullins and Jamison Middlemiss. Row 11 will see Bobby Justice and Darren Mills, Justin Belmonte, and David Doothwaite in row number 12. Row 13 will see Brandon Bakey and Jeff Carson. John Binder, Nicholas Atwood, Derek Jacobs, Ryan Huff, Matt Metler will round out the field of 31. Everyone from Carson on down did not set a qualifying time and will grid up via their iRating. Weather conditions here for today's race. We are just past 1:15 p.m. in sim time. 69-degree ambient temperature, 87-degree track temperature. That might be why we saw these cars seemingly so in control during the qualifying session. A cool day out in the air and a cool day on the racetrack is only going to help these drivers.
Certainly some nice cool air, some nice cool track temps to get this race started. Seeing that wind right around the 10 to 11 miles an hour shouldn't have too much of an effect on these cars. That wind blowing north right now, so something to keep an eye on, but I'm sure these drivers have it all figured out by now throughout the practice session and the qualifying. Certainly have some very fast drivers out in that field of 31 today.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's not in their favor today is the higher winds. Again, stage breaks will be at the end of lap 45 and lap 90. It will be that way for 3 of the remaining 4 races. Homestead will be laps 45 and 90, as well as the championship race at Phoenix on the 8th of November at 45 and 90. David, getting set to go. Why don't you take us down?
Pace car getting ready to make that hard left turn as we are coming to the restart zone here. Number 11 machine is the control car. We'll see how good of a jump he can get as the green flag is in the air. We are racing here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The 11 of Gallimore getting off to a great start, has the advantage over Davis as they head into turn 1 on that low line. Still side-by-side racing back through the field as we see everybody making their way through turns 1 and 2. They are going to move up to that high line and start to get things sorted out as we head down the backstretch towards 3 and 4.
It's Shane Davis there in that number 79 that has gotten through, and right now Tim Wortman left alone on that outside line as here comes Kenny Coppola, last week's pole sitter, last week's stage 1 and stage 2 winners, also led the most laps, jumping up into that second spot, first of the playoff drivers now.
Coppola certainly hungry to make up for the mistakes that he had last week. The race was all but his, but had some troubles late on at the race there at the Roval, so certainly looking to make up for it here. Gallimore still leads the way about 2/10 of a second ahead of Coppola at the moment. Davis closely behind following there in that number 29 Toyota Camry.
One car that we have seen that started this race that has not made it around, Derek Jacobs. Here's what happened to him just a moment ago. This is on the opening lap of the race. There is Jacobs in the number 27, and brakes jammed on? That's interesting.
Certainly looks like maybe some equipment malfunction there. Have to keep an eye on that, see if he does make it back out to continue this race. If not, still made the start, so that's a position, that's some points for these drivers to at least take advantage of.
Kenny Coppola looking to the outside, trying to use that momentum off the high line, and he will do just that. Ran himself right into the outside wall coming off at turn 2 as well, and that's one of those tough places because it's right where the safer barrier starts to blend into the concrete wall.
And certainly not something that you want to do to the race car consistently. Is iRacing has recently updated that damage model. The more you start tapping that fender, the more you start having those issues, the more likely something is to break on that car. So something you want to keep an eye on. Definitely note where the wall is. You do want to get close and get as much speed as possible, but you certainly don't want to end up having a bad day and damaging one of those linkages or suspension pieces in the back of that car.
Brandon, we see you in the chat. Bikey, thank you very much for the pronunciation guide. As Kenny Coppola works his way to the front of the field, Paul Gallimore, Chris Davis, your top 3, then a little bit of a gap back to Kyle Holden in the number 59 as everyone's starting to single file out here in the early stages of this race. This isn't too far off of what the true-to-life distance is around here. What was the real race? 267. So this is a majority of the actual cup distance. So if you want to win, you got to be able to get there.
Certainly got to have that patience and knowing where to kind of let that driver go, fall into line here, that early stage. Certainly with stage racing, you can make up some positions on pit road and figure out what went wrong during that first stage, make those adjustments to make your way up through the field in stage 2 and stage 3.
Speaking of Kenny Coppola and the confidence that he had last week, again winning the did not win the pole. That was Kyle Holden, but winning stage 1 and winning stage 2, those were stage wins 21 and 22 for him, and I believe it was the 6th time that he had won both stages in a race. So a very good run for him, picking up right where he left off last week at the Roval.
Certainly looking to get those laps led and stay out in that clean air today, as I mentioned earlier. Just looking to make up for last week, get that win, and certainly make his way to that Final Four the easy way, not have to worry so much about points as we look forward to the next few rounds at Homestead, Miami, and Martinsville.
On board the number 7 right now of Chris Spear. Working that outside lane. Hasn't quite come into its own just yet. Boy, getting very close to that outside wall was the number 7.
All these cars certainly looking very comfortable on that low line. Nobody running the extreme high line yet as we see some trouble in turn 1.
That was a hard hit into the wall on the outside. That was Ed Boyles Jr. hard into the wall on the number 38. Wow, what a hit.
Getting that car towed back to pit road and to the attention of his crew. We'll see if he can make it back out tonight. That was certainly a very hard high-speed hit into the turn 1 wall.
Whew. And as you mentioned, that damage model, see the changes that have been made. This is the aftermath of it. My goodness, what a hit. Let's see if we can get a better shot of it here. This is coming through 3 and 4 here just prior. Well, it looks pretty good right now. It's not going to last that long.
Looking very stable through the tri-oval here, and as they make their way into 1, did he have some help getting around? Maybe, yep, just a bump there from a car behind and just got into trouble and sent straight up into the wall.
I mean, my only guess would be it might have been the 22 of Bobby Justice who had gotten into the back of him. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Here's on board of Justice. And yep, just that little tap and off and away he went. My goodness, that was a lick.
Just enough to upset the balance of the car right in the middle of the turn where the weight is shifting on those vehicles. So enough to get the driver loose, and of course you saw the result straight up into the outside wall.
On board of Boyles. There was a secondary accident, looks like, that happened behind that as well. We'll take a look and see. This might have been Brandon Bikey. It's Bikey in the 1. Yep, there he is slowing up for the accident, gets turned. That looks like the 9 of Jeff Carson that sent him around. So a very big hit here early on in this race, knocking out Ed Boyles.
Certainly one of the harder hits I have seen here at Las Vegas. So just hoping that he had his hands off the wheel. Looked like there was some very violent movement of that steering wheel there. Could really cause some injury.
Absolutely. And we're talking about that in real life, depending upon the quality of the sim rig that you have. Certainly can do some real life damage in a fake accident. As cars are starting to double up. I believe we've taken 2 to go at this point. Leader does have lane choice as Coppola goes the opposite
Having
way.
some fun, weaving down around the cone there.
Not much else to do under caution, may as well.
Hey, they mentioned searching all around the racetrack to finding the right line, so Coppola just exploring some options down there on the apron.
Got to rubber it in. If you want to use it, you got to rubber it in. Can't bump the pace car, so it's you got to find something to do. So to be
That's what we need to petition for the next iRacing update. Bump the pace car.
Well, that update's coming tomorrow for those of you who haven't quite seen yet. There is some downtime on the sim coming tomorrow for an update. So that'll be fun. Kenny Coppola, Chris Davis, Paul Gallimore, Kyle Holden, Shane Davis, Wayne Bowen, Randy Mullins, Tim Wortman, Chris Spear, and Chad Sullivan. That is your top 10 at the moment. So we are now going to double up and get going. Get this race back underway.
Lights off on the pace car, as you mentioned. Cars getting lined back up, stacked back up, and we'll be back to green flag racing here as they're making their way onto the backstretch right now. And something to keep in mind for these drivers, as we mentioned earlier, this is a very long race. If you're not happy with how things have played out so far, very short green flag run. Take some notes, take some time, learn how that car is going to handle, and you'll have plenty of opportunity left here today at Las Vegas to get some moves and get some things done.
Absolutely, and try not to overreact necessarily to a mistake, because there is a ton of time to get it back as we are getting set to go racing here once again from Las Vegas. Kenny Coppola, Chris Davis, your front row. Coppola with control of the field. Into the restart zone they go. Green flag back in the air, racing once again here at Vegas.
Coppola out to a great start, has about a 2/10 of a second advantage over Davis on that restart. Great job getting to the gas early. Davis, of course, getting out to a pretty good start. Doesn't look like he has any troubles taking that second spot, but side by side for third place as Holden and Gallimore are currently battling it out, seeing who can get the advantage and get to that third place spot. Looks like Holden will hold it for now on that outside line, but Gallimore certainly fighting back on that inside line. Should have an advantage coming back to the stripe here as they make their way around.
Yep, and Chris Davis will take the race lead. You also saw down the back straightaway, Nick King looked like he was evading a car that got into the wall coming off of turn 2. We've seen that quite a bit. Cars pushing up out of turn 2, getting into that fence. For those of you with the playoff drivers, rooting for playoff drivers, 6 of the 8 are in the top 10 currently. The only 2 right now, Barry Sanders running in 12th. Justin Belmonte, again, the man who had won the final 2 races in the round of 12, currently not having it his way right now, currently running in 19th.
Certainly having to put up with some traffic right now, but looks like he's doing a good job of keeping that race car clean with those incidents being back in the field a little earlier on. Certainly doesn't look like it affected him too much here. Just keeping his nose clean and seeing what he can do to be there at the end of this thing.
Found himself in the right position last time out at the Charlotte Roval. Did not make a mistake in the last 10 laps as his competitors did. Found himself in victory lane. Kenny Coppola back out in front of the field, as you can see right around Shane Davis there. We're side by side, 3 wide, 3 abreast, every lane, every which way. We are racing in Vegas for sure.
Drivers taking advantage of the field being at least a little tighter than it was just a few laps ago before that caution. So still trying to get things sorted out towards the back of the field here. But for the most part, some of those front rows starting to single file out and get into that draft, see if they can make any moves using the drafting help. And, of course, looking for lines inside, outside, maybe just a lane and a half up right now. Still nobody running that extreme high line towards the wall.
And that's one thing we've seen quite a bit of over the course of the next-gen league here in Las Vegas, is that the draft is absolutely huge here. And it doesn't matter how much you have to let off to get into the corner. But as the run goes on, you will start to see groups break up. It's almost like a mini super speedway race, as that was Paul Gallimore having to evade to the inside.
Looked like possibly a little miscue from Wortman, maybe getting just a little bit of the wall and bouncing back out again. Certainly have to keep an eye on how these cars are reacting down the back straightaway, as in that draft, there is a little bit of wind current that can drag you and kind of suck you up towards that wall there if you're not careful on the exit of 2.
As we mentioned, that north wind as Nick King gets a big slide on. Fortunately, helps with the wall, keeping him straight. But Nick King is going to lose all of that track position. I'd rather lose the track position than lose the car, though. At least he'll have a chance to get back up there.
Certainly a long way to go and plenty of opportunity with the stage break at lap 45 to get that car into the attention of his crew. Just going to have to keep focused here, make sure that he can do everything he can to prevent further mistakes.
That's a ride on board here going through 3 and 4 here with Nick King. Carrying one of our several gyro cams here tonight. See him get big time loose here. He had just gotten up into, I believe it was the top 5. He's going to have a big slide. Tries to get to that outside. Wiggle, wiggle, loose.
Wiggle and possibly a little bit of a contact with the 78 machine there, but certainly looks like he was loose as he was coming to the exit of that turn and didn't have a whole lot of room to maneuver that vehicle.
78 of Wayne Bowen is who he ended up colliding with. That would have been for the 5th spot as we see one car going down to the bottom lane. That is Randy Mullins carrying our main sponsor for tonight's race, Ram Welding. Thank you very much to Ram for sponsoring tonight's race. Nice job seeing that car as well running up here in the top 10, at least early on. Maybe hopefully find its way in victory lane tonight.
Certainly would be great to see the race sponsor have the opportunity to be on the podium tonight, so that 54 machine of Mullins could also punch his way into the Final Four and give that Ram Welding sponsor an opportunity to make their name known here at the championship at the end of the season.
Absolutely. Chad Sullivan looking to the inside now in that number 21, trying to get the spot on Darren Mullins in the 64. That, what would you call that, neon yellow or highlighter yellow?
High-vis green, high-vis yellow, not sure, but certainly is a sharp paint scheme. Usually not a fan of those brighter colors, but that car certainly does make it work. It does look really sharp today.
If done properly, it works very, very well. As we're seeing the gap form here with this group, about a second adrift of this group is Barry Sanders running in 10th, Shane Davis running in 11th, or now 12th, as there's a car in the background there that went off. So this group about a second or so behind the lead group and running side by side as they are, not helping your cause of getting back up to the drivers in front.
That was the big advantage I was going to mention. That lead group, for the most part, minding their P's and Q's, staying single file, maybe one person popping out here or there to try to gain a position. But this back group, really much more fighting, more two-wide racing going on. So that is certainly slowing them down right now. If they can single file it out, get that momentum back, it certainly is not an insurmountable gap to catch back up with that lead group of about 10 or so drivers.
Now, in calling as many super speedway races as I have with SRM, Randy Mullins right now is in a position that I like to call the bridge. He's not quite on the front pack. He's not quite fallen back to the second pack. That second pack, though, can sniff the draft of Randy Mullins and kind of use him as a bridge to get back up to the lead group.
100%. And from what I've noticed on the iRacing service, at least at super speedways, I'm not sure about here at Las Vegas, that gap is somewhere around that 0.8 of a second mark is where you can really pick up some usable draft from that car in front of you. So if that back group can just close that gap down a little bit and really work their way up to them, they can certainly bridge this gap a little more, get a couple more cars in there, and make their way back up to this front group who is currently running too wide for that second place position. That's Davis and Holden battling it out. Looks like Davis is on the outside line, making it work, getting around Holden right now as Bowen tries to jump to the outside line, getting the job done for that third place position.
Tim Wortman there as well, running in the 5th spot. He's looking for 4th as Holden now on that bottom. It appears as though the lines are starting to shift. That inside line looked very dominant at the beginning of the run. Now it looks like in a side-by-side battle, it's starting to lean towards that middle lane. That appears to be the dominant line. Oh, contact. That's the 11 in the wall of Gallimore. Car stayed straight, so he stayed green, but the 11 of Gallimore was the pole sitter, getting into the 21 of Chad Sullivan.
Certainly some tight maneuvering there in the trial. We'll have to wonder if they just thought that they were going to have a little bit more room to maneuver around each other and just had a miscue of who was going to take the position coming out of that trial.
So let's take a look and see what happened coming off of turn number 4. I believe somebody went around just, we went to the break there, or as we went to the replay, and yep, just drifted up a little bit too high. Did the 11, I believe the caution is out now. Yes, it is. Ryan Huff, it would appear, a part of that.
Some heavy damage to the front of that machine. Of course, for the 11, an opportunity to come around and get that car to the service of his team. Have to take a look, see what happened here. Looks like the 16 just started drifting up the track and the 93 had nowhere to go. Really just kind of a victim of the circumstance there.
Just a little bit of a pinch for Ryan Huff, and I'm seeing this a little bit more now with these next-gen cars. Seemed like the 16 just, they kind of hooked together.
Certainly is part of the aerodynamic package, I think. Once these cars get close enough together and the effects start taking over, it's almost as if the cars are drawn to each other and are trying to become one aerodynamic piece as they move through the turn. It's hard to explain, but when you're side drafting, it's almost as if the cars just want to be one single unit when they move together, and if you're doing that in the middle of a turn, it just certainly spells some trouble.
So on board of Jamison Middlemiss there, that last replay is Chris Davis will vacate the 2nd position and come down pit road.
Taking some opportunity to possibly short pit and then, of course, stay out at the end of the stage, opting for stage position to start stage 2 rather than finish stage 1. We'll have to see how that plays out for him.
Shane Davis, Aaron Matthews, Warren Young, Caden Norfree, Nick King. That's a big saving grace of a caution for Nick King as well. We saw that big snap loose that he had coming off of turn 2 earlier on in the run. This allows him to get back up into the main pack. As Kenny Coppola in the fight to win his 23rd stage win of the season, which is the most of any driver this season. Did they say 21st or 23rd?
23rd, and
yes, okay.
Certainly an accomplishment there. Coppola showcasing his speed, his talent, being up at the front of the field very consistently throughout this season. So no surprise to see him sporting a playoff banner and, of course, doing what he needs to right now to ensure that he'll make his way to that championship 4.
23rd was definitely the one I meant. He won his 21st stage in the first stage last week. As it will be Kenny Coppola, Wayne Bowen, Tim Wortman Jr., Kyle Holden, Randy Mullins. That's the top 5. Barry Sanders, Justin Belmonte, with a lot of drivers in front of him pitting, now jumps up into the top 10. Stephen Gibson, Paul Whitley, and Chris Spear will be your top 10, and those are the only 10 that did not come into pit under this first run of cautions. Under this first big run of pit stops, I should say.
Especially with the incidents we have been seeing. Looks like maybe that left front tire on a couple of these cars is starting to wear in a little bit and change how these drivers are racing around the track. So we'll have to keep an eye on those front 10 who didn't take the pit stop here and see how that affects the cars behind them on those new tires. See if they can get a good line up underneath some of these drivers, or maybe even start using that higher line and start making their way around the outside.
Yeah, we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it seemed last week as though it was the left side tires that were wearing a little bit more than the right. So could that mean come the end of this race, as Shane Davis, it looked like he took a 2-tire stop there in that 79 with his pit time being what it is, 11:37 compared to everyone else who did just around a 15-second pit stop. Could we see some left side tire only stops to try to balance it out if we get a short run to either a stage end or to the end of the race?
Certainly could be a possibility. All depends on driver comfort. I know that personally taking left side seems like a gamble, but as you mentioned, with the left side wearing at a faster rate than the right side, it could give an opportunity to really balance the car back out and get maybe a little bit of a tighter feeling back into the car that you haven't had since that last pit stop on fresh tires.
So Kenny Coppola once again electing the inside line. We're going to have 8 laps to go before the end of the stage, as it'll be Coppola and Bowen, your front row 2 playoff drivers, followed by Tim Wortman in third, Kyle Holden in P4. Wortman, the first driver up the field, not in the playoffs. Qualified second, has been up in the top 10 the entirety of this race so far. As we inch closer and closer to the start-finish line. Getting closer and closer to the RS Button Boxes stage winner. I had that mixed up last week. As the green flag set to come out. There it is. Kenny Coppola off and away. Another great restart for that 77.
We saw it all race long last week whenever there was a restart. Coppola really having something figured out with that restart zone, and his competitors seeming to get a great jump off of the start, as that now puts Bowen and Wortman side by side, battling for that second place position. See who can get it done as they make their way down the backstretch into 3 and 4 here. Wortman on the inside, Bowen on the outside. Certainly that outside line did have a little bit of an advantage earlier on these older tires, so it looks like Bowen will be able to hold on to that second place position and make it around to the stripe right before Wortman can get there.
Fresh tires already moving up as that's Shane Davis 3 wide down on the bottom, getting up into the top 10, sticking his nose there, opening the door up for Chris Davis in the 29. A couple of cars on the outside catching the wall, but fresh tires starting to really slice their way through the front of this field, getting very close to the corner of Randy Mullins, 3 wide through 3 and 4.
And of course, as we mentioned, playoff drivers needing to make up as many points as they can with that opportunity, and starting right outside of the top 10 here. Both of those machines from the Davises working their way up through the field, making their way into the top 10, getting those vital stage points that could really help them out later on as we make our way towards this final 4 cut.
Shane Davis sliding down the back straightaway, able to keep it straight at least for the moment. What a drift, keeps it out of the wall. What a job by the 79 of Shane Davis.
Minus the contact, keeps that car clean, manages to avoid the wall. What a save, but certainly a disappointment knowing that he was about to have some stage points here coming up in just a few laps.
For Davis, everything checked up in front of him as Barry Sanders slid up the line, forcing everyone to check up a little bit. Shane Davis, unfortunately, the one that gets the boot on that. As look at Brandon Bikey coming up through the field. Bikey's up to 6 plus 19 on the race so far, and he was around backwards earlier.
Drivers, of course, taking notes, taking advantage of mistakes made prior. Certainly could spell some playoff implications later on in the race if we get a weird caution that lends the opportunity for somebody who maybe saved a set of tires to get back out there, put some freshies on, and race their way up towards the front.
Speaking of playoff implications, here comes Chris Davis, one of the drivers that came in, took 4 tires and fuel under that pit stop, up into the race lead. Kenny Coppola losing out a spot to Brandon Bikey as well in that number 1. Coppola up in the wall coming out of turn 2. And now fresh tires 1 and 2 here closing in on the end of this stage.
And for the first time in a while, Coppola going to have to start dealing with some dirty air as he tries to chase these guys down. Just tries to hold on to that third place position as we come in 2 more laps to the end of the stage.
Completion of lap 45 will be the close of stage 1. And Chris Davis putting in work right now. Fastest lap of the race, a 29.81 for that number 29. Kyle Holden trying to hold back fresh tires as well, not helping him. Boy, fresh tires really making a difference.
Didn't think that it would make as much of an impact as it has, but as we saw, those drivers that opted not to pit really struggling right now, trying to just maintain those positions, hold on to those spots within that top 10, get those stage points, and then get those cars down to surface so that they can get on those fresh tires again.
Brandon Bikey resetting the fastest lap of the race at a 29.79. Coming through turns 3 and 4, he's trying to put the chase down on Chris Davis. Unfortunately, it's not going to come up with enough time. Chris Davis will win stage number 1 here at Las Vegas. And what a stage it was. Perfect timing on that caution for drivers needing tires.
Drivers coming in, taking advantage, grabbing those stage points, and certainly had quite an eventful stage 1. Looking forward to everything that stage 2 and 3 can offer us with all this information we're gleaning out of stage 1 here.
Absolutely, and with that, we'll take a quick break. Be right back. Chris Davis in the playoffs gets himself 10 playoff points as we go to break. Getting ready to go back to green flag racing here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Coming up here in the round of 8 here in the playoffs. Here at Las Vegas, we have one more stage to go. That will be at lap 90 over 200 laps. Homestead Miami Speedway coming up next Wednesday. That will be the same thing, stages at 45 and 90 over 200 laps. David, unfortunately, I do not think we're going to make it out of Martinsville in time for the championship race on November 8th, because what I'm seeing here, Martinsville stage breaks are lap 60 and lap 120. That's about normal. The race distance, though, 2,500 laps. So I hope you enjoy Martinsville hot dogs, because we're going to need a couple for the week and a half that we're going to be there.
Certainly racing 2,500 laps at Martinsville. I think what the league was going for here is they're just going to race straight into championship week, throw the cars on the hauler, make a cannonball run all the way out west, and just throw the cars right on the track at Phoenix.
Forget it. I think the race to Phoenix should be the championship race. Whoever actually makes it there first. So we will be in Martinsville for a little while. As we saw there under break, and it befuddled both of us. David Doothwaite in the 31 is the only one who did what we expected everyone to do, who came in during that caution right before the end of the stage. He stayed out. He will be the race leader. Chris Davis, Brandon Bikey, a lot of the other drivers that came in under the stage break came in and took 4 tires and fuel.
Certainly not what we expected, but lights off on the pace car here. Have to see if it pays off for Doothwaite as he makes his way around as the control car coming back to the Geico restart zone. And we will see how he does on this restart. Green flag down and away. Looks like he gets a pretty good jump, so he will have that advantage of clean air for a little while as Bakey and Davis try to chase him down here.
Brandon Bikey right out to that second position, which is where he finished that stage. By the way, the lap time he had going into the stage, we mentioned the lap prior, he set the fastest lap of the race. Yeah, he did it again, a 29.62. That's 0.2 faster than anyone has gone at any point during this race today. That one was moving at the end of that stage.
Was certainly trying to chase down that stage win. Wasn't quite able to get it done. Right now, that 31 and 1 machine running 1-2, so showing off that speed yet again. Did manage to get some tires back on that machine under that caution, or under the stage caution.
Certainly got close, as side-by-side racing has been the order for most of the day thus far, and it continues here as now Kenny Coppola looks to continue moving up. Darren Mullins, now he is one of the drivers that came down pit road at the caution just before the stage. He took fuel only on that pit stop, same as the 22 of Bobby Justice. Both of those two took fuel only. Everybody else 4 tires and fuel, except for Doothwaite, who didn't come down pit road at all.
Drivers, of course, playing out some different strategies here. We did take a look. Drivers do have some tire sets to play with, so no surprise to see some of those drivers using that extra tire set early, seeing what it can do for them, but certainly have to think that a lot of these playoff drivers are going to try to save that set for a little later on in this race if we do get that late race caution.
Doothwaite looks like he's starting to pull away. Not too much older are those tires, but still definitely older. As Brandon Bikey having a little bit of trouble moving his way back up. He's down about 0.4 of a second, but has about 0.4 of a second on Darren Mullins, who again is on the same tires as Doothwaite, just on a full tank of fuel. He's moved back up into the 3rd spot.
And certainly I think that has to be related to the clean air that Doothwaite is able to take advantage of right now. And of course, Bikey not having that support from behind of a car, able to push him through that straightaway and really gain some speed and get that momentum towards the bumper of that 31 machine.
Talk about how shuffled up this field has gotten. David Doothwaite plus 23. Brandon Bikey, plus 23. Darren Mullins, plus 16. Those are your top 3 runners right now. They have moved up, and Aaron Matthews, if he can get the pass to get into third, he'll be plus 10 on the race thus far. So strategy has really jumbled this field up from what we saw earlier on.
Drivers shaking some things up, taking some opportunities where they found them, and of course that puts just 3 of our top 10 drivers right now as playoff drivers. That would be the 29 machine of Chris Davis, the 77 of Coppola, and of course Wayne Bowen there in the 78 machine, all running 5, 6, 7 right now as they run.
Again, if you're just joining us, you see drivers highlighted in gold over in the timing pylon. Those are the drivers who are racing for the championship. There are 8 of them. 3 in the top 10 right now, 3 in the top 20. And then we saw just before the stage end, Shane Davis have a bit of a moment and a great save that he had. Dropped him outside of the top 20, as well as the winner of the last 2 races, Justin Belmonte, in that number 6, currently sitting on the outside line behind Jamison Middlemas. Belmonte has been the last running of the round of 8 cars the entirety of this race thus far.
Certainly now has an opportunity with Davis, who saw his way into the top 10 for quite a majority of stage 1 there. Of course, as we mentioned, just having that slight moment right towards the end of stage 1. Belmonte gets an opportunity, of course, to learn from Davis as they both try to make their way up through this field and get as close as they can to the top 10 as we close towards the end of stage 2 here in about another 30 laps or so.
Up front here, David Doothwaite is not getting harassed. However, Brandon Bikey certainly is. It's Darren Mullins to his outside line, and that 64 of Mullins has seemed very, very content with trying to make that outside line work, and he's doing just that around the outside of Bikey, taking the momentum off that high line. Can't quite clear him going into turn 3. Might be able to, though, through 4.
And as mentioned earlier, being on the same tire strategy of Dithwaite up front, could be that those tires are just a little bit more comfortable in relatively clean air on that higher line, so he's able to get that speed, get that momentum. And of course, we've seen it rubbered in over that first stage with drivers running about the same line where that 64 machine is running now. Certainly looks like he's finding some speed, about a lane and a half up from where the other drivers are running on that low line.
Unfortunately, seen that turn 2 wall also get rubbered in as well, as we've seen more than our fair share of drivers come up and hit that wall coming off in turn 2. Battle a little bit further back here in the field. That's Warren Young in that white, silver, and black number 8 machine. Tim Wortman Jr. started on the outside of the front row, running in 9th. Caden Northry there as well in the number 44. As more drivers, a lot of drivers still on the bottom, don't get me wrong, but it's seeming like drivers are slowly inching and creeping up to that outside lane.
Starting to search their way around, and of course, seeing a driver all the way up in the second place position, just comfortably riding in that next lane up. Mullins seeming to make it work is certainly going to tempt some of these other drivers to start searching around, searching a little bit higher, seeing if they can find some speed, as we now see that 64 machine go even a little bit higher, just keeping those tires right on that seam there as he makes his way around 3 and 4.
Yeah, that momentum slingshot doesn't seem to work as well coming off of turn 4 as it does coming off of turn 2, as Bikey now clears the 64. Aaron Matthews in the 5 also getting around. First time we've really spoken about Matthews in this race. Again, plus 9 positions from where he started back in 13th. And Matthews getting up into the top 3. We're seeing a lot of side-by-side racing here, but not a lot of passing, as guys like Coppola, Chris Davis, Wayne Bowen, they're kind of stuck where they restarted in this stage.
Of course, Davis, Coppola, and Bowen could be a little bit of strategy, understanding these guys in front of us aren't playoff drivers, so maybe see Davis, Coppola, and Bowen try to swap spots here and there, but not wanting to push it too hard too early and make a costly mistake that might cost them this top 10 position, especially come the end of the race when they could be racing for that win.
Change for the race lead. David Doothwaite has lost it. Number 1 to P1. Brandon Bikey out in front. That's the 11. Our pole sitter tonight of Paul Gallimore, who was involved in an incident earlier on. He is about to get lapped in that number 11, and Bikey starting once again to run away here, has already put down 0.4 of a second on Aaron Matthews as Doothwaite now. It looks like those tires have just hit the cliff. They have fallen completely off now.
And of course, Bikey and Matthews taking advantage of that that draft, that momentum, if you will, especially coming into a lapped car there. You saw cars 2, 3, and might have even been 4 wide for a moment or two there, really breaking up the momentum of the vehicles behind them to take that advantage, get out to a decent gap of about 0.6 of a second, almost to that 0.8 of a second they needed to break the draft away from those cars behind them.
This is Brandon Bikey's first race run since he finished 3rd in the opening round, the opening race of the round of 12, so missing the last 2 weeks. Was Brandon Bikey. It's only his 11th start of the season. He won back at Pocono earlier on this year, finished 2nd at New Hampshire and 2 third-place finishes at Texas and the Nashville Super Speedway, finished top 5 at Talladega and Michigan in 5th. But other than those races, the 4 other races he's run this season has not finished inside the top 15. Best finish of 16th. That was at Darlington.
Certainly seeming to find a way to get it much more figured out today as he is running in that top spot, but is about to be challenged by that 5 machine of Matthews. Davis and Coppola, of course, working their way up here behind them in that 3rd and 4th position. They are quite hungry for the lead, as it looks like it's going to be a tandem high-low line here very shortly. That 29 machine looking to the inside of the 5, and I have a feeling that 77 machine is going to follow him down there, see what they can get done to get back to the front of this thing.
All of these guys are on the same tire. 4 tires and fuel for the 1, the 5, the 29, and the 77. The 78 behind him. Wayne Bowen has gotten into 5th, and for those of you like me with OCD, all of them being in number order, very satisfying, and now Chris Davis has completely ruined that. Thank you very much. Davis into P2. Coppola follows on through. So just as you said, Coppola P3.
Coppola, of course, using Davis in front of him to kind of get those drivers out of the way, use the easiest path to make your way to the front, and might even be saying at this point, all right, Davis, you go out there and you take the lead, and then once we both get by Bikey here, we'll see about fighting over it.
Brandon Bikey did not lead a lap at Texas, though he did finish 3rd in that race. Brandon Bikey is like 32 laps at Pocono. That was the most he has led all season long. Has not led a lap since his race at Talladega.
Front 3 now getting pretty comfortable nose to tail. Doesn't look like anybody wants to give an inch. Those cars separated maybe by a 1/10 per position right now. So certainly using that draft, gaining as much speed and as much momentum as they can, as it looks like about our top 5 have really started to pull away from 6th on back.
Which, as I said that, it didn't make sense because I had said that he had last run at Texas. Talladega was after Texas. I was looking for car number 1 in the finishing results. Didn't see it, so assumed he didn't race it. He did finish at He did race at Talladega, finished 5th. So his last 2 finishes have been inside the top 5. Have Bikey. History lesson complete.
'77 machine of Coppola looks like it's now starting to come under fire of that '78 machine of Bowen. Bowen starting to search in that higher lane, seeing if he can get the advantage. Does get side by side with the '77 machine as we make our way through turns 1 and 2. See if he can get that momentum and carry that momentum down the back straightaway, as it looks like he will gain that position. '77 of Coppola falls in line, sees if he can get anything done coming back to the line and maybe set him up in turns 1 and 2 coming down the back straightaway.
You mentioned earlier on the 54 of Randy Mullins playing the part of the bridge between the first and the second group. Now that's Aaron Matthews playing that part in the number 5, about half a second off of the top 4, and he's been falling back steadily since he fell out of P2. Tim Wortman bringing a quartet of his own. Wortman, Holden, Norfrey, and Sanders running 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, trying to use the 5 as a bridge to get back up to the lead pack, as Coppola and Bikey now swap positions. Bikey down from 2nd to 4th.
Of course, Coppola looking to make his way back up front, knows what that clean air feels like, led quite a few laps in stage 1. Davis currently showing the way, Bowen in 2nd, and of course, Coppola seeing what he can do. Looks like he's starting to search around, maybe just a touch lower than that 78 machine, seeing if he can get around him and set him up here.
Couple of moves going on mid-pack. This is the 21 of Chad Sullivan, who was pinched into the wall along with the number 11 earlier on during the first stage. He is battling with the 43 of Stephen Gibson. It's a battle for the final spot inside the top 10 that Sullivan will take hold of. So 21 to P10, 43 to P11, and just behind them we are 3 wide. Darren Mullins, who was racing for the lead not all that long ago, getting passed on the bottom by the 4 of Nick King. And look at this, Justin Belmonte up into P12. That's the highest he's been all race.
Of course, as mentioned earlier, Belmonte, and as you can see on screen there, not too far behind Davis, both working their way up through the field, trying to get a bite out of this top 10, especially as we start counting the laps down here, right around the 10 to go mark, as we're closing in on the end of stage 1 here, or stage 2, sorry, very shortly.
Stage 2 break will be at the end of lap 90, as now Darren Mullins and Randy Mullins battling for position. 64 in neon on the outside. Randy Mullins carrying the race sponsor tonight. Ram Welding and Fabrication running in P16 on the bottom, as David Doothwaite might be in a little bit of trouble here, not just because of the tire advantage that everyone else has around him from not pitting during the stage break, but also because he didn't pit during the stage break, he's down about 10, 11 laps on fuel than everybody else.
Certainly has a little bit less fuel, although I don't think it's the fuel that's causing him the issues right now.
Agreed.
Have to think that those tires are certainly screaming at him. Looks like he's just kind of trying to hold on and stay out of everybody else's way at the moment.
Seemed to be the case, as now that's Nicholas Atwood in the number 24 that's trying to make a move on him. Darren Mills, Warren Young battling side by side just behind it. Oh, that's Chad Sullivan, I believe, in the fence. It is.
Trouble in the tri-oval, and certainly have to take a look and see what happened there, but it certainly looked like two cars just fighting over the same piece of real estate yet again as they come through the tri-oval. Certainly is a lot tighter than it looks on the screen there.
Second tri-oval incident of the night for Sullivan, and ooh, that one wasn't his fault either. That was the 44 of Norfrey getting loose out of the corner.
Norfrey, of course, even though he had the mistake, looks like he suffered the least amount of damage out of that incident. That 21 machine of Sullivan just, again, finding himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Doesn't that annoy you more than anything else as he was on board of Norfrey? You wreck me, yet you're the one that's fine. I really appreciate that. As Caden Norfrey only falls down to 17th position. This is certainly going to be pit stop time for everybody, and once again we're going to have to question whether or not these drivers will pit during the stage break. We said no last time and we were wrong. Bet we'll say yes this time and be wrong again.
Well, knowing that these drivers had a total of 6 sets of tires coming into the race, 1 on the car, 5 behind the wall, I wouldn't be shocked to see a couple of these drivers try that strategy, put some freshies on, try to make their way up through the field. But certainly, now in the back of my mind, we've seen a caution close to the end of stage 1. We're seeing caution here close to the end of stage 2, especially as a playoff driver. If I still have that extra set of tires in my back pocket, I'm going to save it, knowing that towards the end of this race, we might have a late race caution and see if I can gain a few more positions and certainly some playoff points that could help me later on as we make our way towards that championship.
Tim Wortman Jr. leads some of the field on pit road, gives up a top 10 spot. Now here is where this caution differentiates, thinking about it, from the last stage break. Is that this caution is coming a little bit closer to the stage end, and now instead of the top 10 not pitting, now it's the top 16 that did not pit. So you have more cars to get through if you're Wortman or either Randy or Darren Mullins, and a lot less time to get through them than guys like Chris Davis and Brandon Bikey had at the end of stage 1.
And I think certainly it will be the number of cars that makes a difference compared to the amount of time that they have, as we did see those cars on fresh tires at the end of stage 1 really slice and dice their way up through the field. But again, they only had to make their way through 10 cars as compared to 16 this time.
So it will be Chris Davis, Wayne Bowen, Kenny Coppola, Brandon Bikey, and Aaron Matthews, the top 5 here in this stage, here in the final run for the end of the stage. Kyle Holden, Barry Sanders, Stephen Gibson, Justin Belmonte, and Shane Davis round out the remainder of the top 10.
Certainly should be a short run to the end of the stage here. I believe the light's going out this time. The next time they cross the line here this time around. And that would put us at about 5 to go for a very short sprint to the end. See if Davis can get it done. Of course, some very fast cars up front with him in Wayne Bowen, Kenny Coppola, who was, of course, no stranger to leading this thing. So have to see how it plays out. Who can secure that stage number 2 win? And, of course, those 10 playoff points that go with them.
And we haven't had... then we have 105 laps to the end of the race, which is by far and away longer than any run to any stage break that we've had here tonight. Again, this is quite a long one here, both this week and next week. Are only 67 or so laps short of the true to life distance. Martinsville is about 5 times longer than the true to life race distance. And then Phoenix will be another 200 lapper to the finish. So we got some racing to do here still. There's only 3 races to go after tonight, but we got some racing to do here over these next couple of races.
Lights out on the pace car as they start stacking them back up and sorting things out. Looks like the number 1 and 77 machine getting nice and close, maybe exchanging a few words or some hand signals through the windows there. So something to keep an eye on this restart, as Chris Davis will be our control car, and certainly has to contend with Kenny Coppola, who appears to have that restart zone figured out, starting right behind him. See if he gives him a shove here coming through the tri-oval.
Might be exchanging insurance information if they get any closer as we get set to go. It'll be a 4-lap sprint to the end of stage number 2. Chris Davis has control of the field with Wayne Bowen to the outside. Davis was the winner of stage 1, looking to repeat here in stage number 2. Green flag about to come back out. Pace car is off. Into the zone they go. One and only caution flag in stage 2 is done. We are racing again here in Vegas.
Davis down and away very cleanly. Looks like Coppola wasn't able to quite figure out when Davis was going, so that puts him in a battle with Bowen at the moment, side-by-side racing for that second place spot. See who can get it done coming down the back straightaway, as it looks for sure that Bikey will be able to push that 78 machine past Kenny Coppola. And, of course, the 78 machine able to work his way down to that inside line, just cut off a little bit of air to that front end of the 77 machine.
Yep, Bowen gets down to the bottom to cut off Kenny Coppola. That allows Bikey on the outside. Bowen, though, playing both halves against the middle here, now takes the middle lane going through turns 1 and 2. That will keep Bikey behind him for sure. Looks like Bowen wiggling a little bit down there at the bottom as it looked like Kyle Holden in the 59 getting into the wall in that Toyota.
Certainly some cars back there trying to use all the racetrack they can. Certainly using it all the way up to the wall, but the battles 2, 3 wide here towards the end of this stage. All these playoff drivers contending for points. Looks like we will be racing very hard back here as we see the 4 machine make some contact, I believe.
Yep, that was the 4 and 24 going door to door. The 24 of Atwood now trying to shoo out Aaron Matthews with a lap to go here in the stage. Right now, Atwood in that 24 is the last car that will get stage points as Barry Sanders trying to hold off from Shane Davis and Justin Belmonte possibly getting any more stage points.
Of course, Sanders wanting to take advantage of every position he can right now as he missed out on some stage 1 opportunities. So doing what he can to fight back. And as you mentioned, just hold those drivers off. Hey, I need those playoff points too.
Absolutely. Coming through 3 and 4. He collected the RS button box's green and white checkered flag at the end of stage 1. He'll do the same in stage 2. Chris Davis has taken both stages here at Las Vegas.
Certainly some great racing we've seen out of these drivers so far. 90 laps in the book, and I think we've seen just about everything so far. Some strategies we weren't really expecting, and drivers really racing close. Of course, some troubles we've seen early on out of these drivers, and then seeing them recover from it. So excited to see what stage 3 holds for us tonight, and who can make their way to the top of the leaderboard and possibly punch their ticket into the championship for this week.
We are 109 laps away from the finish. We'll get you to the start of those 109 laps when we return. RS Button Box's Stage 1 and Stage 2 winner, Chris Davis, number 29. Fun conversations had during the break here in the broadcast booth, and fun racing still left to be had. 105 laps to the finish here in the Moonshiners Racing League. Race number 1 in the round of 8 here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Back to green we go with the series with the race sponsor car out in front.
Randy Mullins out to a great start in that Ram welding and fabricating machine, and getting it done here off the start, out to about a 0.4 of a second lead. Have to say that is probably about the biggest gap we've seen out of the restart zone so far. Currently over that 64 machine of Mullins. Warren Mullins, of course, following him close behind. Looks like they got that second place position sorted out pretty well, and for the most part, looking back on the field here, looks like everybody running almost nose to tail, knowing that this is going to be a longer stage, and getting things sorted out early and opting for strategy and pit stops midway through the stage.
Top 5 drivers did not come into pit. Those are 5 drivers that came down pit road under the caution just before the end of the stage. Randy and Darren Mullins, Tim Wortman, Paul Whitley, and Matt Metler, the 5 drivers that did not come down pit road during the stage break. So those were the 5 that started out in front, and these are much needed laps led for Randy Mullins if he wants to get to Phoenix in 3 weeks' time.
Certainly getting that time up front, getting those bonus points, if you will, and Mullins, of course, doing what he needs to do and earn those extra bonus points when he can. Haven't seen him running quite as quickly as I'm sure he hoped he would today, so grabbing those opportunities where he has them is great to see.
So Randy falling back, Darren up to the race lead as Tim Wortman looks to the inside. Paul Whitley up there as well, also carrying the race sponsor on board tonight, Ram Welding and Fabrication. I believe that's North Pleasant, North Carolina is where they're from. It's where they're based. I just missed it on the logo ticker up there in the top right.
Certainly have to keep an eye on things as they run, but certainly these drivers sporting that sponsor of Ram Welding and Fabricating doing quite well right now, running in the top 5.
Certainly are, and that inside line right now is what's paying dividends for these drivers. But as we've seen over the course of the night, the lane has moved up towards that middle lane, as right now the top 4 drivers are drivers that did not come into pit under this most recent stage break.
We saw it play out just last night in some off-pit strategy, fuel run conservation. So interested to see what these drivers have in mind, see if they're working it a little bit backwards or if they'll have to make 2 stops during this 3rd stage.
Exactly, perfect analogy from last night. If you watched the Extreme Xfinity Series, the Extreme Racing League Xfinity Series last night at Auto Club, you're exactly right. It was an off-pit strategy that ended up winning the race for Bryce Senesac, taking his first win of the season in round number 4 of the year. Could we see it come to fruition once again here tonight? We got 5 drivers on an off strategy compared to everyone else in the field, and a lot of close racing here as we've crossed over the halfway point.
Drivers going 2 by 2, just as I said, they were starting to narrow their way out here at the start of this stage and kind of ride around until they had to make those pit stops. Looks like about the back half of our field has decided, you know what? There's still plenty of time left in this thing. I'm going to make up positions while I can. 2 by 2 racing, several rows deep now behind our leader, and everybody just really battling for those positions. You see a flurry of playoff drivers there from 5th all the way down through 9th. That would be Davis, Holden, Sanders, Mullins, and Belmonte all fighting over those positions right now, doing what they can to set themselves up later in this race and gain that track position early.
It's the first time that Belmonte has been stabilized up here in the top 10. We saw him as high as 7th earlier on as the cautions come out. And I believe this might be, might have a couple of big names in it. Yes, it does. That's Kenny Coppola.
Saw Kenny beating and banging some doors there in 3 and 4. Doesn't look like the car took too much damage from whatever incident resulted, but we will certainly have to take a look. As you see the 2 there of Darren Mills, looks like the side of that car maybe took a little bit of damage as a result of that contact.
Wayne Bowen might have been involved in it as well, as here's a big wiggle there. And then Bowen just gets right into the back of him. There's the 4, the 2 comes in. That's a hard little nudge of the wall, and again, that's right where the concrete fades back into the safer barrier there. So that was a hard hit. Oh, he caught the side of Mettler, is what sent him going.
Of course, seeing a little bit more damage now from this other angle of the front end of that 77 machine. Have to keep an eye on that, make sure there's no engine damage that's going to slow him down. Of course, aerodynamic damage being a big factor here at Las Vegas, as well as we've mentioned the draft all night long.
This is from above here. There's the contact with Mettler. 2 little knocks. 78 thought he could sneak through, and a couple of hard nudges there from the 4. Caught some of it. 2, obviously. But once again, Kenny Coppola, this time not necessarily of his own doing. Last week at Charlotte, it certainly was of his own doing. This week, though, this is just bad luck for him. Good news is he's got a big enough points lead coming into this race. He might be able to sustain this.
And just under halfway to go in this race remaining, so plenty of time to make up any of the positions it's going to cost him. Certainly give his team an opportunity to come down pit road, get that car patched up as best they can, get him back out there, and keep fighting for this championship.
And speaking of the point standings, let's take a look at said point standings coming into tonight as they sit. So it's a 25-point lead for Kenny Coppola, so he might be able to withstand at least one hit. Kyle Holden, Shane Davis, Justin Belmonte, the top 4 coming in. Those would be the ones going to Homestead. Wayne Bowen, we just saw have an incident. Chris Davis has won both of the first 2 stages. Barry Sanders has been a solid top 15 car all race. And Randy Mullins has been up at the front, but again, another solid top 15 car in this field of 31 tonight.
Drivers making up points where they can. As we mentioned, the 29 machine of Davis grabbing those stage wins, so he's certainly looking to make a mark and work his way up the playoff standings there. But some strong names, as we mentioned. Kenny Coppola being the points leader heading into tonight, getting involved in that incident. And then Wayne Bowen, not too far behind, also being involved in that incident. Gives Chris Davis a real opportunity to maybe take the points lead after tonight and feel a little bit more comfortable as we look ahead to the Homestead, Miami, and Martinsville races.
Saw from on board Chris Davis. Just behind him, the number 88 of Barry Sanders. Wayne Bowen, who was a part of that last incident, just behind him in the 7th spot. A majority of the 8 drivers in the championship hunt currently seated inside of the top 10. Worth noting, Jeff Carson, Nick King, as you could imagine with the hit to the nose that he had, Justin Belmonte, Matt Mettler, Tim Wortman, Kenny Coppola, Darren Mills, Randy Mullins, Jason Middlemas, Paul Gallimore, all coming down pit road under this caution. Derek Jacobs, after his earlier incident, we saw Jacobs pretty much just lock the brakes on in lap number 2 going into turn 1. He is just returned to this race in that number 27, so he will have the ability to move up at least 5 spots as Ed Boyles Jr., John Binder, Ryan Huff, Bobby Justice, and Chad Sullivan are no longer participating in this race. So Jacobs can move as high as 26th as we get set to go back to green flag racing here, David.
Ace car down and away. The 64 machine of Mullins getting the opportunity to control the field here. And it looks like he will get out to a nice jump as he's about 3 to 4 tenths of a second above the second place position of Holden, who is currently battling for that position against Whitley. Davis in the 29 machine going side by side for that third place position, getting it done up underneath that 74 machine of Whitley. No problem bringing it back up to that top line, taking away that air from the front of that 74 machine.
Leading the 6th caution of the evening, only the 4th caution for incident. We had 2 yellows in stage 1, 1 yellow in stage 2, and now here in the final stage, just completing our first yellow, the other 2 cautions were the stage breaks on lap 45 and lap 90, as Kyle Holden looking right to the inside of Darren Mullins, looking for that race lead. He's got Chris Davis right behind him, not able to clear him off the bottom in turn 2.
Holden able to momentarily grab that lead through turns 1 and 2, but not quite able to get out to enough of a lead to clear Mullins. Chases him down here through the tri-oval as they go nose to tail. About a tenth of a second separating them right now. Looks like he will look to the inside of that machine again through turns 1 and 2 as Mullins is still running that mid lane, really doing a great job of just keeping it there all race long. We saw him there earlier. Really looks comfortable in that mid slot and able to defend high and low from that position against Holden right now.
See the 59 and the 29 both running pink cars. Of course, October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 5 also with some pink on that car. The 5 of Aaron Matthews. The 59 a little bit more vocal on the hood, at least, about his feelings of cancer, as working through lap 112, about to get to 113. Look at Barry Sanders move up into this battle, into the top 3.
You know, it's interesting. I can't remember what week it was I talked to Sanders, but he's a driver that consistently ranks himself as just one of those kind of middle of the field drivers. So to see him up here battling for third, it is really great. See him up here doing some great things, trying to make his way into that championship 4. Really love to see you make that championship 4 and make your way into that final round, knowing that we had that conversation a little bit earlier, seeing that you always find yourself in that mid-pack.
Barry Sanders found his way enough to getting enough points at the Charlotte Roval to get into this round. He was one of 4 drivers battling for the final spot in the round of 8, and with the stage points and his finishing position that he accumulated over the course of the race last week at Charlotte, he was the one who was chosen, or the one that earned his spot, I should say, to getting into the round of 8. So Sanders right now second highest running of the playoff drivers. Chris Davis, again, if you're just joining us, winner of the RS Button Boxes stage 1 and 2. Running in the 5th position is Paul Whitley, really showing up here in the front of the field for the first time tonight.
Whitley, of course, helping push that duo of Mullins and Sanders out ahead of Holden, getting Sanders to be able to clear that 59 machine, let him drop right in behind the leader of Mullins there, run some nice clean laps. Looks like Whitley wasn't able to quite get clear as he should be to the outside of Holden right here.
Riding on board with that number 74 of Whitley. As Mullins now coming under fire from Barry Sanders.
Gaining some speed, using that draft, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, trying to find some clean air to the nose of that machine, knowing that Mullins has been consistently running that mid lane. See if Sanders can get it done up underneath him. Right now they are racing quarter panel to door at the moment, side by side through 3 and 4. Can Sanders get it done as they make their way towards the tri-oval?
Sanders looking for his first laps led in quite some time. Not going to get it this lap, but that 88 right now showing quite a bit of pace as Mullins able to hold on with that outside line. That was one thing that we heard all throughout the week as far as drivers who ran the official series. It's hard to pass when the guy is able to run that outside as well as Mullins has been able to.
And certainly at most tracks, you would think being the longer way around the track, the outside line would be at some disadvantage. But here at Las Vegas, we saw it for about 2 laps there. These drivers running very consistently side by side with each other. So not really any big real advantage, low or high here, as Sanders makes his way back behind Mullins for that second place position at the moment, kind of recoups, regathers, and sees what he can do to get back up there.
Barry Sanders had mentioned he hadn't led a lap in a while. He led 3 laps at Bristol back on the 20th of September, almost a calendar month ago. Before that, you have to go all the way back to June 28th at the Nashville Super Speedway, where he led 13 laps there. So he had gone almost 3 calendar months without leading a lap. He is right up here right now, hungry to get up into that P1 spot ahead of Darren Mullins.
Some battles for position going on just a little bit further back. We see those drivers, Davis, Bowen, Belmonte, those playoff drivers, battling it out right now for that 7th, 8th, 9th positions with Matthews. Really keeping this thing close behind these leaders. And then, of course, a little bit of a gap back to the second half of the field, fighting back there. It looks like 2 by 2 for a couple of positions at the front of that second pack.
Justin Belmonte here 3 wide at the back of this front pack. This entire front pack now is running side by side here. Warren Young up here now as well. Oh, contact! As that was the 78 shoving the 5 and the 6 out wide. They both stay straight, so the caution is not going to come out. But they got very, very close. And who was that sliding down to the bottom? That might have been the 88 of Sanders.
That indeed was the 88 of Sanders. Not 100% sure what happened, but looks like there might have been a miscue coming off of 2 and onto the straightaway there. Certainly costing him quite a few positions. He's going to try to battle his way back up here, see if he can get a fight back on with the leader of who was Mullins. Looks like Bikey now very challenging on that inside line, able to get just a little bit of an advantage and out in front of Mullins as he will now take over the race lead.
Bikey's going to take it. Let's take a look back and see what in the world went on. It was the 78 of Wayne Bowen. Oh, it's already gone off here. Let's see it one more time here. This is Bowens coming through 3 and 4. As we mentioned, 3 wide at the back of this pack. Running very, very close to each other. Bowens just, looks like he just drifts up a little bit too wide. That gets the 5 and the 6 into each other. Sanders had just taken the race lead and got rear end loose coming out of the corner. What a save, though. A great job at catching it by the 88. But as quickly as he takes it, as quickly as you giveth, taketh away.
Certainly doing what he can to make his way back up front. Right now, Holden getting a good run and trying to chase down our leader of Bikey in that one machine. Seeing what he can do, seeing if he can get back out front here and possibly punch his ticket as we're starting to count the laps down, starting to come here. 74 to go. 75 to go, pardon me, left in this race.
You were mentioning the battle at the second pack. Here is that second pack. Kenny Coppola right now running in the 9th spot. Tim Wortman Jr. just behind. Shane Davis is in this group, as well as Matt Metler, who came into pit under the last caution. There is Metler looking to go around Justin Belmonte. Now Belmonte with right side damage, as well as the 5 of Aaron Matthews after that contact a couple of laps ago. So Metler looking for a solid finish here, about 0.7 of a second behind that. Chris Spear in the number 7 leading a group of Aaron Matthews, David Doothwaite, who's led some laps tonight, Nicholas Atwood, who had finished 11th in that stage at the end of stage 2. He had just gotten clipped at the line by Stephen Gibson for the 10th spot in the stage. Nicholas King, Caden Nordfree in this group as well, as field is starting to spread out into its own little packs as we are getting closer and closer to pit stops here in stage number 3 in the first race of the round of 8 in the Moonshiners Racing League Cup Series. We'll take a quick break from Las Vegas. We'll be back right after this. 61 laps to go here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Cody Coppola right now. This is the battle for the final spot inside the top 5. The race for the lead currently sees Kyle Holden holding off Brandon Bikey. Those two swap positions before we went to break. Chris Davis, Wayne Bowen also in this front pack. If you're just joining us, Chris Davis, winner of stages 1 and 2. Kyle Holden getting his first look at the lead here tonight in that number 59. Brandon Bikey, second place finish in stage number 1. So we've had a lot of competitive racing here thus far over the course of this night.
Certainly a few drivers making their mark and getting those points for some laps led. Of course, one of the machines that we were focused on a little earlier on in this race, this 88 machine of Sanders, currently seeing himself in the 10th position, was able to get the lead momentarily, but had a little bit of issues, a little bit of a wiggle that cost him a few positions, caused him to drop back here. So good to see him still fighting up here in the top 10, see if they can get something worked out, work their way back up to this lead crew, as they are about 6 seconds off of the leader right now. But as you mentioned, Holden being up there at the front, Davis being in that lead group, Coppola fighting his way up to reunite with that lead group. Plenty of playoff stories to keep an eye on here, and starting to really count those laps down as we're now looking under 60 to go.
Absolutely. As you saw Justin Belmonte there behind Barry Sanders, running in 11th spot. These 7 of the 8 drivers in the playoffs are running in those top 11 positions. The only one that's not is Randy Mullins here. Mullins came into pit on lap 107, so he has pit most recently, got caught up in a couple of slips earlier on in the stage that has put him towards the back, and as we inch closer and closer to pit stops here, coming down to 55 laps to go next time by. It's one more stop, and then you got to make it up on the track unless a caution comes out. With how spread out this field is, it's not looking like that's going to happen anytime soon.
And of course, as mentioned just a little bit earlier in the broadcast, drivers do have that extra set of tires to play with. So if we do see that late race caution, don't be surprised if you see a couple of these playoff drivers dive their way down, throw some fresh tires on it, try to make their way back up into the top 10 if the opportunity presents itself.
All 3 of those drivers on screen hit the wall coming out of turn 2. Barry Sanders, Nicholas Atwood, and Justin Belmonte all caught the wall coming out of turn 2 there, and Sanders is going to lose that 10th position because of it, as Atwood gets down and out of the way, gets down to the bottom, is able to get the run. Number 24 to P10 here in this race. This is the front of the 3rd group here, again, just fighting for the last spots inside the top 10.
Certainly these drivers doing what they can to start piecing things together, but this is one of the longer green flag runs we have seen so far. So for some of these drivers, could be the longest they've run on a set of tires up to this point. Certainly trying to feel out what that car feels like, and of course, coming towards the mark of 50 laps to go, some of these drivers are going to have that experience already logged from stage 1, stage 2 of how those tires feel. So shouldn't be anything new from here on out for these drivers after this upcoming money stop towards the end of this race.
This has certainly been the longest green flag run of the night for these drivers, and the keen-eyed viewer will notice there's a change in the lead. This happened last time around. Brandon Bikey getting a good run coming out of turn 4. Outside in turn 1, number 1 back to P1 yet again, using that momentum off the high line out of turn 2, gets the slingshot, and off and away he goes. Looks like we have cars coming into the pits, as we mentioned. Pit cycle coming up. Justin Belmonte, Nick King down pit road, David Doothwaite, Jamison Middlemiss, all down pit road here as the money stop has approached and has come here with 51 laps to go.
I know I have mentioned it previously, but no good comes from just following the leaders all night long. So a couple of these drivers just getting down pit road early, seeing if they can make that time up on track with some fresh tires, and of course getting on fresh tires just a little bit sooner, hoping that that tire fall off slows these front leaders down enough for them to make that gap up kind of through those pit cycles.
And we are definitely within the pit window to be able to make it, pardon me, from here on a tank of fuel. Leaders, the top four at least, came in on lap 92. We have not had many caution laps in between there, so lap 151, you're about 60 laps into a run here. Not all that bad. These guys should be able to make it the rest of the way as Kenny Coppola peels down, gives away the 7th position to come down and pit.
Drivers, of course, starting to figure out where they want to be, start picking out that strategy. So Coppola said, all right, I've had enough of these old tires. Let's bring it in, see what we can do on some fresh stuff, see if we can make up some ground, especially knowing that competitors like Bowen, Holden, Davis, the other Davis, haven't pit yet. So try to make up some of that time, especially on those playoff competitors, and try to get the advantage looking forward to this championship.
Oh, Warren Young around. He was trying to get down to pit road. He stopped on the racetrack, and that will bring out the caution.
Certainly not something that Coppola wanted to see. Of course, Bowen, Holden, and the Davises can take advantage of now getting that free stop under the caution. We'll have to see how it plays out, see who can get that free pass on the wave around.
That's what happened. Warren Young trying to get down into pit road. It's not the easiest of pit lanes to get onto, and that transition from the banking to the flat catches him out, and because of that, stopped on the racetrack. The caution will come out, and Paul Whitley also a very slick move there to evade and not pit under a closed pit, as Brandon Bikey now, the race leader, does not have to worry about coming down pit road under green flag conditions.
Certainly a relief for some of these drivers, and of course, as mentioned, a couple of these other drivers who got caught maybe a lap down because of some pit cycling, hoping that all these leaders up front will take their opportunity to pit and make the money stop here. Certainly don't expect to see anybody stay out and hold anyone a lap down, so all those drivers hoping for their wave around here.
Brandon Bikey, that's not his pit stall. What has he done? Stopping where he is, now he's starting to roll back out. What happened to car
uncomfortable or had some looseness maybe coming onto pit road? Wasn't sure where to find his stall perhaps in traffic. Not 100% sure what happened there, but he does get it to the attention of his crew. Looks like they're going to throw 4 fresh tires on that machine and fuel it back up.
But that's the thing, he wasn't in traffic. He was the leader. Let's see, here he comes. It's the car to the inside. And just pulls off. We'd mentioned last night during the Extreme Xfinity race that iRacing servers have been a little bit shaky, and right now it is not showing that number 1 in the race. So maybe did he have a throughput? If he runs VR, did he have his VR blackout on him? I
possibly having some equipment issues, but that number 1 machine, as you mentioned, not currently seeing him here. We'll have to keep an eye on that situation and see if he can make his way back in. But as currently scored, I believe that will put him a lap down if he can't make his way back out onto track quickly here.
Another driver who's going to be a lap down is Kenny Coppola. Actually, I believe he just got his lap back. As Bikey now, he is back in session, so the assumption would be that he I would assume throughputed. That would be my guess. And that's a tough one to have to deal with. You're less than 50 laps away from the finish. You're in the lead coming down pit road, and then all of a sudden just gone.
Certainly not the way anyone wants to lose the lead here, but definitely understand with equipment issues, things like that, you got to make sure everything is taken care of. So good to see him back out on the track quickly here, and I believe, if I looked at that correctly, he will stay just on the lead lap, maybe one lap down is what I'm seeing right now as they're starting to come to the line.
So right now, most of the drivers that came in under green are caught a lap down. We're seeing a couple of drivers here that are out in front of the race leader that will get laps back. I believe the 16 was one of them. Yes, there's Middle Miss. That's going to get one back. Matt Mettler is going to get one back. It looks like the 4 of Nick King as well. He's going to get one back. There's the 5 back there as well. David Duthwaite. These drivers are all getting the wave around after coming down to pit under green. So we will line up with Wayne Bowen and Kyle Holden on the front row. Bowen will be the control car in the number 78. Playoff drivers in positions 1, 2, and 3. Here to restart with, 43 laps to go.
That it will be. As far as playoff drivers getting caught a lap down, as far as what I'm seeing Coppola and Belmonte currently trapped a lap down, so hopefully they can make that up here as pace car is getting ready to go down and away, and we'll get this thing back to green flag racing.
Longest green flag run of the night done and dusted. Time to start another one as the green flag is back out. Wayne Bowen leading the field away. A good start for Bowen. Good start for Chris Davis. Good start for Shane Davis on the bottom line as well. Playoff drivers occupying the top 4 now.
Flurry of playoff drivers fighting for those top 4 spots. Looks like right now, Davis and Davis occupying 3rd and 4th now. Holden getting caught, I believe, on the outside line there. Working his top line magic against Shane Davis. And of course, these drivers all trying to get it done here tonight. And now move Mullins up into the top 5. Throw a blanket over these guys because they are hungry for it, and they are certainly going to do anything they can to make that podium come the end of the night.
There you see the 64. That is Darren Mullins. He is the free pass car. Justin Belmonte, Brandon Bikey, and Kenny Coppola are right now not on the lead lap. And a matter of fact, Coppola is not in the session either. So Kenny Coppola may have called it a night, or he may have also suffered the same connection issues that Brandon Bikey suffered during this caution period as well.
Certainly have to wonder if there is an issue right now. iRacing servers, of course, update coming early tomorrow, so hopefully get things leveled out and back to normal here so that drivers don't have to fight with something that's really out of their control.
I never really run C-Fixed. I believe I told you this before the race started tonight. Ran a C-Fixed at Homestead earlier this week. My computer's hardwired. I had a throughput on I think it was Monday night. So that was interesting for a hardwired computer to have a throughput, just to show the stability of the servers over the last couple of days. Kyle Holden falling back a little bit. Holden falling back into the clutches of Tim Wortman started P2 tonight in that number 83. Jeff Carson. Haven't spoken much about Carson in number 9 tonight. He's gotten around a couple of incidents. Has had a very silent night here so far in Las Vegas, plus 19 positions into the 7th spot from where he started. So a good run tonight for Carson.
Certainly some of those quiet nights, but good finishes, a good way to kind of set the end of your season, try to carry that momentum forward into the next season, and really just keep things pushing for that next fight.
Tony and I always said that just because you're having a quiet night doesn't mean you're having a bad night, and Carson certainly is not having a bad night here at Vegas at all. As Wayne Bowen, Randy Mullins, we had mentioned Mullins, he was down in P21 not that long ago before the caution. Got on the right pit cycle by not pitting under the last caution, and speaking of caution, we have another one.
Opportunity for some of these playoff drivers to get their lap back. Have to take a look and see who our free pass car will be.
So it'll be Darren Mullins in the 64. As this is Warren Young, who's gone around again, this time in turn 3. See what happened here. Ooh, got loose right up there against the 74, and that, ooh. It's the 4 of Nick King and the 31 of Doothwaite.
King, another one of those drivers that just seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time a couple of times tonight. Hopefully that doesn't hurt his run too bad. And, you know, I feel for him. I've been there. Certainly seems like nothing's going your way, but King, of course, putting together some great runs so far this season and doing a good job of keeping that car out of trouble for the most part, as they have been running throughout the year.
At first onboard there was from Doothwaite. This is from King here. Ooh, man, that's like a little bit of damage that popped back into place. Thank you, Netcode. Those rare times when Netcode actually works for you. As Doothwaite has come down pit road, but King has not. So the 4 electing to stay out on that, Doothwaite electing not to. So we'll take this time here. So we have 35 laps to go. We'll take this time to sneak in one last break. You are watching the Moonshiners Racing League Cup Series Round of 8, race number 1 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Playoff drivers hold the top 5 positions. About to go green flag racing with 33 laps to go here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pace car coming off of the racing surface. Wayne Bowen on the inside, Randy Mullins on the outside. Green flag back in the air, off and running for the final 33 laps.
Bowens and Davis as a pair on that inside line really getting a great restart. Davis seems like he was stuck to the bumper of that 78 machine, so currently right now those two drivers uncontested 1-2. Mullins looks like he got it sorted out for that third place position. Looks like the battle right now back there around that fourth place position between Holden and Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, if you're just joining us, winner of the first two stages here tonight. As Kyle Holden starting to slip back a little bit, must have got loose down there on that bottom line. Ends up falling behind Tim Wortman. As Wortman, 3 wide, Holden gets a big wiggle on, ends up using that 83 to straighten him out. And
driver's able to keep it straight.
Yep, fortunately able to keep it straight. Look at Sanders looking to make it 4 wide.
Playoff drivers knowing that time's starting to wind down here. Sanders, of course, labeling himself a few weeks back as one of those midfield drivers. Certainly doesn't look like he wants to remain a midfield driver, as he is certainly looking to make his way back up towards the front of this thing, as he did have the lead momentarily at one point, hoping
Chris
to get
Spear.
that back here.
Chris Spear hit that wall hard coming out of turn 2, spins across the front of the 59 of Kyle Holden. Cars are off the racing line, no caution. And they're 3 wide for the race lead.
Certainly some rough implications for Holden to see if he can get it back out and not lose out too much on some race position. See if he can hold on to some of those points. Mullins right now to our race lead. Bowen and Davis following right behind, trying to take that lead back away from them.
Playoff drivers, 5 of the top 6 spots. Let's take a look and see what happened with Spear and with the number 59. There you see the 7. Great run on that outside line. Unfortunately, took it a little bit too wide. 59 had nowhere to go. And again, because they were low and off the racing line, caution did not come out. As back up here at the front, Randy Mullins leading the way here at Vegas as Barry Sanders looks to the outside of Chris Davis, can't quite make the move.
Sanders doing what he can to make some moves, make his way back up into that top 5, and right now those leaders being very close. Looks like the top 5 separated by just a little over half a second. Certainly anybody's race. Sanders trying to fight his way in there.
Chris Davis has shown all night tonight that Toyota certainly does have pace. Trying to use that pace to get back up to the front, but you can see the intensity after this last restart. The intensity has really ratcheted up here. Mullins showing the way again in the race-sponsored car. And that Ram Welding and Fabrication number 54 showing the way here in Vegas.
Certainly a car that has had some pace tonight, and early on in this race didn't really see a whole lot of Mullins, but certainly showing the way now, showing that he has that pace, and right now trying to fend off Bowen and Davis behind him, who are hungry for that win, hungry for that lead, and try to dethrone him from that first place position.
Look who's making a charge, or trying to at least, on that outside line. You saw from the rear view camera there, Barry Sanders, first car on that outside lane, starting to make a move, using a little bit of side draft there on Tim Wortman in that 88 on the bottom line. And Wortman peels away off to the apron. That's going to give Sanders the run going into turn number 1. 88 to P4.
Wortman surrounded by a bunch of playoff banners there, certainly getting himself into a position that I'm not sure I would want to be as a non-playoff driver, knowing how hungry these playoff drivers are for those points. Certainly doing a great job to fend off Sanders there for the moment, but Wortman, don't count him out just yet. He's been fast. We've seen him all night long. he's going to fight back against that 88 machine, or that 88 machine, and try to get that position back from him.
May have to fight against the 79 because there goes Sanders again on the outside line. Sanders up to third. That moves Shane Davis in the 79 back to fourth spot. And again, look at Jeff Carson in that number 9. First time he's really shown a lot of real pace tonight. He's been fast. Again, he's been quiet here this evening. But right up here in the mix now as we're coming closer to 20 to go.
Drivers showcasing their speed when it counts. As you mentioned, getting very shortly here to 20 to go. Count anybody into this race, side by side, racing for those first few positions. Any of these playoff drivers up here, the Davises, Bowen, Sanders, Mullins, anybody has an opportunity. Wortman showing some speed, gaining some opportunity, possibly to upset these playoff drivers. We're going to have our hands full over these next 20 laps, as none of these drivers look like they are willing to slow down or give an inch, and certainly battling it out side by side when they get the opportunity.
Barry Sanders was the last car to make his way into the round of 8 after the Charlotte Roval last week. He is now up to second and 1 spot and 21 laps away from possibly clinching his spot into the Championship 4 in Phoenix 3 weeks from today. Randy Mullins trying to do the same thing. Tim Wortman trying to play spoiler as the only non-playoff driver running up in the top 5 right now. Wortman trying to turn that pace back on in the 83.
Shane Davis currently on his bumper, of course, looking to take that position away from Wortman, make his way onto the podium. So plenty of action here. Drivers running very close, less than half a second from first to fourth right now, separating these drivers. Really, these drivers are showing top speed and full action tonight.
Absolutely are. Shane Davis now looking to the inside of Tim Wortman, looking for that third spot. Wayne Bowen laying back a little bit. Top 8 have a little bit of a gap up here at the front. Aaron Matthews leading the second pack. That has just been overtaken by Justin Belmonte. Belmonte not on the lead lap, so unless a couple of quick cautions come out here, that 2-race winning streak for the number 6 is going to come to an end as we are coming down to 18 laps to go here in Vegas.
Drivers pushing those machines as hard as they can. Belmonte getting him in position, trying to get that lap back should something happen. Of course, these playoff drivers, knowing how much that means, that is the last thing they want to see right now as Mullins leads the way. Sanders doing what he can to catch back up to him. Wortman still battling it out, made his way into the top 3. Davis, Bowen, Chris Davis back there trying to make his way up, see if he can scratch his name onto that trophy.
Caution has come out. The 31 of David Doothwaite was stopped along the wall out of turn 3. See if we can see what happened to him here. Going to be happening down the backstretch. Ooh, that looked like contact with the 5. Ooh, that's a hard hit. Pancaked the right side of that car.
Some heavy damage there on that machine, and certainly getting it serviced now. Had to tow back to the pit, and some hard hits we've seen here out of Las Vegas today. Just really hoping these drivers have their equipment dialed in and are able to get their hands back, because as I mentioned earlier, depending on your setup, you can get some pretty gnarly injuries out of these sim rigs.
Saw how loose the 5 got in the middle of the corner. And got loose again, seemingly down the straightaway. Well, let's go back and ride on board with the 5 of Aaron Matthews. Yeah, he got loose in the middle of the corner and just never recovered it.
Talk about being along for the ride. Got hit from his outside, again bounced off the inside. Looks like he really just was a victim of getting loose and then having nowhere to really control that race car. Of course, 64 machine being the unfortunate benefactor of all the damage then of that momentum taking him down to the inside wall.
Pit stops done and dusted. Pit crews most likely will not be asked to perform their duties again this evening. Shane Davis wins the race off of pit road. And remember when I asked you earlier on tonight, 2-tire stop late in the race, maybe just left side tires to even out? Guess what the 79 just did? 2-tire stop.
One of those strategies that I wasn't sure we would really see, especially with some longer green flag runs as it was shaping up to be, but here we are yet again, drivers showing us broadcaster that there's always still more to learn, and certainly showing his speed tonight. That 79 machine has really, really done a great job staying out front and doing what he needs to do to punch his ticket to that round of 4.
Darren Mullins tried to stay out to lead a lap. Instead, that honor will go to Matt Mettler in the 89. He stays out. So Mettler will be on 20-lap older tires than the entirety of the field here at this point. Justin Belmonte, I believe, in that number 6, is the lucky dog recipient, so he will get back on the lead lap. And he's going to need to do some work if he wants to extend it to a 3-race winning streak.
Certainly not insurmountable, but having to work his way from the back of the field all the way up through, he will have his work cut out for him. Right now, Davis restarting, it looks like on the outside line, is going to have the best view of punching his ticket. Certainly looking to get done what he needs to get done on the outside of Mettler on this restart.
So Matt Mettler on 20-lap older tires is looking to play spoiler. Same thing with the 83 of Tim Wortman, who will start on the inside of the 3rd row. It will be Mettler and Shane Davis, your front row. Randy Mullins and Wayne Bowen, row 2. Row 3, we'll see Tim Wortman and Chris Davis. Jeff Carson and Barry Sanders, row 4, Nick King and Stephen Gibson round out the top 10 as we will have 13 laps to go to see who will punch their ticket into Vegas in 3 weeks' time, or if we will go another week without a clinch in.
Playoff drivers certainly hoping that they can punch their ticket tonight. As mentioned, Mettler looking to spoil. Wortman, of course, being fast all night long, having an opportunity to spoil from row 3. Have to see if they can get it done here. Pace car getting ready to drop down and away and get back to green flag racing with 13 to go.
Worry is going to be if that 89 slips off the start. He is the one in control, though, of this restart. 13 laps to go. Into the restart zone they go. Green flag is in the air. He does slip off the start. Bunches the entirety of the field up. Gets a big push from the 54, but it's not going to be enough to clear him going into turn 1.
That 54 machine, of course, knowing everything that this win means to him, is going to do what he needs to do to keep speed and compete with Davis. Mullins now making it 3 wide with Mettler, and Davis doing what he needs to do on that bottom line, trying to get out to the lead all by himself. Looks like he is able to get it done. We'll come up in front of that 79 machine as they make their way back around. We will be 12 to go.
Mullins forced his way into that bottom line, and it was able to work for him as Shane Davis was forced to take the outside line, the longer line around this racetrack. Davis trying to get up to that outside. He's able to keep it up there. Is he going to be able to maintain the race lead? They're dead even going into 3.
Tale as old as time. We've seen this all night long. Driver on the inside, driver on the outside. Who can get the advantage? A little bit of contact there on the exit of 4. Davis coming out on top for the moment, but Mullins certainly not willing to give it up at this point.
So up here, you're single file, and then in the mid-pack, there's this. How do you call that?
That would be a hornet's nest, Frank. Everybody fighting for position, everybody stacked back up. See somebody getting to the wall there coming out of 2. Certainly trying to separate those cars out, but as you saw come the end of the backstretch, everybody right back to it. Positions are to be had. We are coming to 10 to go.
It looked like the 24 of Atwood that caught the wall there. Shane Davis and Randy Mullins starting to pull away from the rest of the field a little bit here. Wayne Bowen, Chris Davis now getting past Matt Mettler. Mettler hard into the outside wall. Doesn't ricochet down into one of the drivers below him, as now Wortman will make his way through. Mettler has a little bit of a reprieve before getting into this hornet's nest.
Mettler dropping back from the start here, currently running in the 6th place position, but about to be swallowed up by that hornet's nest of cars. Inside and outside line, of course, doing a great job staying nose to tail. If he doesn't gain some momentum quickly, he's going to fall into the clutches of the 43 and the 9 machine starting to get into it.
Smart decision. Mettler bails out as the 43 and the 9 end up hitting doors coming through turns 1 and 2. 43 of Gibson keeps the spot. Up into P6 goes Gibson. Around goes the 5. Hard into the outside wall goes the 5. 64 getting into it. There was the 9, I believe, as well. Caution is out.
Back half of this field certainly taking a ton of damage. Looks like for the most part, our playoff drivers are going to get away fairly clean as they occupied quite a few of those top 10 spots.
Jeff Carson, I believe, may have caught some damage here, as we'll take a look and see what happened. And again, another hard hit in the tri-oval here tonight. Oh, the 4 hooks the 5, gets the 9 as well. And then the 64 flies right in.
Of course, with cars racing as close as they were, as we called it, a hornet's nest, not a lot of room for those other drivers to go once a mistake is made. So just some unfortunate placement of those other drivers around them at that point in time.
He was on board the 5, and there was nothing he could have done there.
Hard licks from quite a few drivers there.
And Darren Mullins gets into it as well. We're right on board here with 64. Sees the incident. He saw, I see where he was going. He was trying to get that window below the 5. Unfortunately, just came down a little bit quicker than he anticipated. So, now we'll do it again.
Few pit crews back to work, trying to get those machines back out there, as there's just a few laps remaining in this thing. But as we run right now, looks like that 79 machine of Shane Davis will have the control car on the restart. That will put the 54 machine of Mullins to his outside. And then, of course, that 29 machine that we saw grab those stage wins earlier back in that 3rd position right now, starting in row 2.
Shane Davis and Randy Mullins will be the front row here for this restart. So we are not quite into green-white checker territory just yet. We might have a natural green-white checker. But as far as going into overtime, we are not there yet. The playoff drivers do appear to be okay out of that deal. One playoff driver that this greatly benefits is the driver of the number 6, Justin Belmonte, who had just gotten his lap back, had to start at the tail end of the longest line, and now is up into 10th and can restart in his race position.
Certainly a huge advantage knowing that you can restart in line this time. So Belmonte, of course, happy to see that caution come out, get a little bit better track position here, but is it enough time to get things done, make his way up through this top 10, and of course try to fight his way up to that podium?
On board Wayne Bowen, number 78. He's been up at the front all race long here tonight. Look on board, there's the feet of Tim Wortman Jr. That was a camera idea that I had, and it works. That camera idea works really, really well when you're the one in control. If you're watching in replay the way we are, it doesn't work, and I haven't changed it yet. Let's try another. Caden Norfree here in the number 44. Another driver that's been hanging around the top 10 that we haven't spoken about much here tonight. Norfree up 8 spots from where he started back in 15th.
Again, having those quiet days doesn't mean that you're having a bad day. Just one of those things that there's so much action happening and so many other things to cover that sometimes we just overlook some of these drivers who have made their way up through the field and are running quite well with all the playoffs and all this other action for passes going on. We just tend to miss just those little details. So congrats to Norfree having a great run. See if he can hold on to those positions here, as it looks like we will get back racing when the green flag drops. 3 to go after the line.
The 8th caution of the race for incident will leave us with 3 laps to go here at Las Vegas. The 4 of the top 5 cars are playoff contending drivers. Shane Davis, Randy Mullins, Chris Davis, and Wayne Bowen. All fighting for a chance to fight for a championship. Tim Wortman, Stephen Gibson, row 3, not in the playoffs. Caden Norfree, not in the playoffs, but he does have Barry Sanders, playoff driver, to his outside. Then all playoff row 5 of Kyle Holden and Justin Belmonte. 3 laps to go. Green flag back in the air at Las Vegas.
Shane Davis out to a great restart, followed by Chris
around
Davis
they go
there
already.
in the 29.
Oh, another hard
Caution
hit. The
should be coming out here. Couple of playoff banners that I'm seeing in the mix. That 88 machine of Sanders getting involved. Hopefully not too much damage on that machine. Have to keep an eye out, see what complications we have coming out of this one.
Barry Sanders. Somebody took a hard hit. I believe it was the 74 of Paul Whitley who took an extremely hard hit. Akin to what we saw earlier on tonight with, I believe it was, who the heck was it, the 38. We're going to have to, so this one might take a second to dissect what happened here.
Certainly a lot of cars altogether off the restart. See if we can see what went wrong for these drivers. Green flag about to drop, and there it is. Coming into turn 1, I believe, just trying to get position, get sorted. Looks like Sanders went inside.
Yeah, he did.
And just started that whole chain of events.
Sanders tried to peek the nose in there. Around went the 74. Around went the 9. Caden Norfree also spat out in this. There's Norfree in the 44 to the inside. He's going to hit, oh my goodness, that inside wall really hard.
Certainly have to think that the engine took the most damage there out of that 44 machine.
My goodness. Here's what happened to Paul Whitley. Here's his view of it. I'm clear. No, I'm not.
So close and yet so far. Just hoping to make your way through everything that's unfolding in front of you.
Onboard at north for you. This is going to be a shot here. Oof. Right at the top of fourth gear, too. From Jeff Carson's perspective in the 9.
Hard licks, hard shots. Thought he was going to have an opportunity to go low and get clear, but that quickly closed on him and certainly wasn't what he wanted to see. So drivers getting things sorted back out here as we will be looking for that green-white checker to come out in overtime. Shane Davis and Chris Davis should be our front row here, leading us back to green.
This will be the first of how many green-white checkered attempts? We do leagues with 1, 2, 3. We do some unlimited, some with 4. I can't keep track of them all. How many green-white checkers are there here, David?
This, I believe, if they carried it over from the weeks prior, would be the first of 3 that we will be looking at. Confirming now it is 3. So first of 3 attempts we will have to get them back around and see who we can have at the front of this thing. Right now, playoff drivers really dominating those top positions, so somebody might very well be punching their ticket come the end of this thing.
Barry Sanders coming down pit road in the number 88, surrendering the 10th position at the moment. Only 9 cars remaining on track in the lead lap. Shane Davis, Chris Davis, Randy Mullins, Tim Wortman, Wayne Bowen, Justin Belmonte, Brandon Bikey, Nicholas Atwood, and Kyle Holden. The only 9 drivers remaining with a chance to win this race. Everybody else a lap down or more.
Lights go out atop the pace car. We will stack them back up for our first green-white checkered attempt and see if we can get things done this time around. As you mentioned, quite a few cars getting damaged there, being off of the lead lap. So top 9 drivers, who can get it done, who can get up there, get to the lead, and get things done as we come back around for that green-white checkered attempt.
Barry Sanders and Kenny Coppola, the only 2 drivers who are playoff drivers that do not have a chance at winning this race. Sanders running in 10th right now, but he is a lap down. Good news for him, though, is he is the only driver 1 lap down. So not in danger of losing any positions, nor is he really in the possibility of gaining any unless another caution comes out here. And Kenny Coppola, done after an earlier incident back on lap 156. So he will finish in 23rd and no higher, no lower.
Coming back around through 3 and 4 here. Pace car getting ready to come back off the racing surface. And all Davis front row, as we saw to start this race, they were side by side. Now they have the front row to themselves for this restart. Shane Davis off to a great start over Chris Davis here, getting out in front, and both of them lining up nose to tail. We are back. Green flag racing, 2 to go.
Randy Mullins did not get a great start there in that number 54. Now Shane Davis trying to keep Chris Davis from completing the sweep here at Las Vegas down the back straightaway. Shane Davis on 2 tires, mind you, not able to hold the bottom. There goes Chris Davis to the race lead.
Chris Davis back to the lead. Of course, a familiar position for him, gaining both of those stage wins. Will take the white flag here. We are racing back to checkers.
Chris Davis on that inside line now, starting to pull away a little bit from Shane Davis, side by side. Tim Wortman and Mullins, cars getting into the wall, trying to gain every inch of ground that they possibly can. Chris Davis, though, coming out of turn number 4. He will complete the sweep here at Las Vegas. Chris Davis is going to Phoenix.
Chris Davis, Shane Davis, Mullins, Wortman, Bowen, Belmonte, Vikey, Atwood, Holden, Sanders will be your top 10 for this race. Chris Davis completing the sweep here at Las Vegas, punching his ticket, making it to that championship 4 at Phoenix. We've seen it all tonight, right? There for a couple moments we were thinking that maybe Chris Davis wouldn't be able to pull it off. We had a couple other playoff drivers up front there. Shane Davis having a great run all night long. Wasn't sure if it'd be him. Wayne Bowen up front there for a bit. Barry Sanders making his way up through the field. Some great stories tonight, but ultimately Chris Davis getting it done. So excited for that number 29 team.
We saw one heck of a show here this evening, and it will be Chris Davis who burns it down. Winner of stage 1, winner of stage 2, winner of the race here tonight. That 29 found himself in the right place at the right time all race long, and we're now trying to find them in the Discords. There they are. So right now we will go to our race winner. David, you are with Chris Davis.
Chris, this is David and Frank up in the broadcast booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, man. It must feel great. You got out there, you won stage 1. You got out there, you got stage 2. You got the race win tonight. How does it feel to know that you have just punched your ticket into that championship 4 at the Phoenix race?
Man, honestly, I'm just shaking. I can't believe I come out here for max points. Didn't really expect to win because these guys are so good. But, yeah, I'm actually in just disbelief right now.
Congrats again on grabbing that win. That last restart there being a green-white checker restart. How did it feel starting from that second place spot, knowing that you'd have to battle Shane there to get that win away from him?
Well, Shane's a awesome teammate and even better brother. He was giving me a countdown there just so we could get around Randy. I knew Randy was going to be strong and be right tucked up on Shane, so I knew we had to get a good start. But I told Shane, and I said, it's a ticket into the Final 4. Just know that I've got it full throttle coming out of 2, and I'm going to be coming on you. And surprisingly, going into 3 and 4, it stuck. I was really worried about drifting up into him, but somehow it held and came around with the win.
Congrats again. So glad to see you grab that win. Like to give you this opportunity for those thank yous and then shout outs.
Beast Mode Performance, all those guys in there, they're awesome teammates, better friends. Kenny Coppola for building these fast setups. Nobody could touch us tonight. And my wife and my daughter for putting up with me doing this all the time. And then you guys for a great broadcast.
All right. Well, congrats again, Chris. Looking forward to seeing you compete for that championship in a couple of weeks here at Phoenix.
Thanks, sir.
So that was your race winner, Chris Davis. We now go to the brother, Shane Davis. And Shane, 2 tires was enough for what seemed like most of that last run. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to outduel your brother tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely the move to be. Controlling the race kind of helped a lot. Just getting a little track position and being able to hold up there and get a 1-2 finish with your brother's nice.
Yeah, so definitely it's not as good as locking yourself into the championship 4 here at Phoenix in 3 weeks' time, but certainly to finish second in the first race of this round. How does it feel now that you have that little bit of wiggle room in the final 2 races?
Feels pretty good. I'm not too worried about it if we can race clean. I got in a little bit of trouble here. Didn't get us any stage points in stage 1. I feel like I was going to win stage 1 there, coming on some fresh tires, but ended up getting into another car come down, got loose, and ended up sending me on the infield. Luckily, I was able to save that and salvage my car and able to get a little bit of an advantage coming into race number 2.
Speaking of race number 2, that will be Homestead Miami Speedway next week. What are your thoughts going into Homestead? Which line do you think you're going to prefer?
I think I'm going to prefer the low line, just based off of the races I've ran this week so far. It's a very tough track to pass. It's going to be track position key, and it's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of loose cars out there.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
I got to thank my team, BMP, Beast Mode Performance, powered by Kenny Coppola. I got to thank all my teammates, my brother, Brandon, Wayne, Kenny, Paul, Nick, all of them help out a ton. We do a lot of testing, a lot of practicing before these races, Iron Horse liveries for the paint scheme, and you guys for putting on a good broadcast.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. Your second place finisher tonight, Shane Davis, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
And now, David, you are with our third place finisher tonight, Randy Mullins.
Randy, this is David up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, congrats on making your way up to the podium. Had to battle those Davis brothers there on that restart. Tell me what it was like starting back there, knowing that they were working together, both teammates and brothers.
I knew that they had sole control both lanes, and they were on the same radio channel, so I knew I was going to be at a disadvantage on the restart. But I thought that if I could stay with the 79 ever so slightly, I would be good, because I felt better than him in 1 and 2, but I know he was better than me in 3 and 4. But he got me on the start, got a little gap. 29 got down, and then I had to change game plans. I thought when the 29 went to make the pass that they were going to make contact, wash up the track, and I was going to slide by there and steal the win. But they both stuck like glue, so it is what it is.
It certainly does happen, but congrats on getting that third place finish. Of course, that means quite a few points for your hopes getting into the championship for here in a couple of weeks at Phoenix. How do you feel looking forward to next week at Homestead Miami?
I feel good about the track. I've been putting in a lot of time there, a lot of testing. It's really going to come down to being disciplined so that you can save your tires. But the one that I have circled on my schedule is Martinsville.
Really feel like you have a shoe in at Martinsville to make your way into that championship for?
Yes, if I don't win it or finish top 3, I'm going to be very disappointed.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you over the next 2 weeks, seeing if you can get it done, make your way into that Final Four. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I want to thank my sponsors, Ram Welding and Fabrication, OB Builders, and then my wife for letting me do this. I spend a lot of time on this thing, so she's got to tolerate that. So I need to just let her know I appreciate her.
All right. Well, congrats again, Randy, on that podium finish. Wish you the best of luck and looking forward to seeing you over these next couple of weeks heading towards that championship.
Yes, sir. And keep up the good work, guys. You guys are great.
So that is Randy Mullins. That was your third place finisher tonight, and that was a man who sounded very confident for someone who's got to run 2,500 laps at Martinsville in a couple of weeks' time. But certainly had a great race here tonight at Vegas. Again, as you mentioned, a little bit of everything. We had great racing, side-by-side racing, really all throughout the night. Had a long green flag run. Didn't quite get through the green flag pit cycle the way we were hoping to. Green, white, checkered, hard impacts, hard racing. Just a little bit of everything here tonight.
And it certainly was a great race to watch. Looking forward to running a fairly similar race next week at Homestead, Miami. I think these drivers are going to put on a great show. And then, of course, the grueling endurance race that we are going to have there at Martinsville. Looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do. And, of course, playoff hopes, playoff stories, of course, all coming to a head then in 3 weeks at Phoenix. Can't wait to cover it all with you.
Now, just to let everyone in on the joke, naturally they are running 250 laps at Martinsville in a couple of weeks, but the schedule that we were given shows 2,500. So an extra 0 added in there somewhere for the Martinsville race. Really quick, we'll go over the finishing results here for tonight's race here at Las Vegas. Chris Davis will race for a championship at Phoenix Raceway in 3 weeks' time. He takes stage 1, stage 2, and the race win. Shane Davis, his brother, coming home in second. Randy Mullins, Tim Wortman, the first of the non-playoff drivers, and Wayne Bowen, your top 5. Justin Belmonte, Brandon Bikey, a nice recovery for him after his drop in connection from the race lead with about 50 laps to go. Nicholas Atwood, Kyle Holden, and Barry Sanders, your top 10. Chris Spear, Stephen Gibson, Caden Norfree, Paul Whitley, and Jeff Carson, your top 15. Jamison Middlemiss, Nick King, Aaron Matthews, Darren Mullins, and Matt Metler, the top 20. Warren Young, David Doothwaite, Kenny Coppola, Darren Mills, Paul Gallimore, your top 25. Chad Sullivan, Bobby Justice, Derek Jacobs, Ed Boyles, Ryan Huff, and John Binder, your finishing results here for tonight's race. So that will do it from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. For my broadcast partner, David Modespaw, I am Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. And remember, as you walk down the road of life, please don't play in traffic. Good night, everybody.